It's time to face your fears.
It's been calling your name.
What are those things?
Spirals have driven the town crazy.
Spiral into the nightmare
Let's go! Tornado!
with the English language Uzumaki Marathon.
Next Saturday at midnight.
It's all just in your head.
Only Toonami on Adult Swim.
You have to hide.
A mushroom.
Not just any mushroom. The caviar, the ghost orchid of mushrooms. The chances of this growing naturally, Francis, it's like a 1 in a billion Goldilocks situation. And I found it.
Flat white for Gregory!
That has to be Gregory.
Gregory!
Right? Anyway, I'm almost out of mushrooms.
Hey, what's up? For Gregory? Thanks.
So that really was his name, Gregory.
Marshall.
Right, sorry.
Hello! Today is December 26th of 2024. I'm Michael.
I'm Tommy.
And this is our podcast where we talk about anime and other things. And it's called Toonami Therapy because sometimes we talk about Toonami. So this is probably going to be a kind of short podcast because there wasn't that much that was on Toonami, and even in regards to the off Toonami shows, although we ended up watching 5 episodes, there was just of 2 shows.
Yeah.
We had 1 of Burn the Witch and 4 of Yu Yu Hakusho. That was not what we said last week we were planning to do, but stuff happened and things changed. That which happens unfortunately quite a bit for us. All right. So this is going to be a pretty short one, but don't worry for all you people who just want to make sure to listen to a lot. Next week we're going to have our presumably longest podcast of the year, maybe, where we're going to go through all of the series we watched this year, all the series we watched enough of, I think, to rank, and just we'll go through them. We each made our own list, and we'll go through them one by one, taking turns, and see how it all turned out. And yeah, okay. So that'll be what we're doing for next week. Well, no, not next week. We're actually planning to record that tomorrow. I don't know how quickly it'll be up compared to this one, but yeah. So we'll be having those for this week, and then the week afterwards we won't actually have any Toonami stuff. So that'll actually probably also be on the shorter end. All right. So we'll get right into it then, I think. Let me just open up this, make sure I got this right. Okay. Oh, before we get into any of our actual discussion, we have a bit of news to talk about. All right. So we learned before that they were getting rid of Toonami Rewind. We already discussed that, but it looks like they're moving Naruto back onto the regular Toonami block. I don't know exactly when it will, they might start it again from the start. They might just keep going after the Chunin exams where we were. And when they do that, we might keep following it. We might not. We'll see.
Yeah.
I
hadn't seen that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Also, in terms of stuff that was not on Toonami, but we did watch, we do have, I'm pretty sure the seasons were already confirmed, but yeah, we do have Kaiju number 8 and Spy Family are coming out with new seasons later this year. One is in summer and the other is in fall, and I can't remember which one was which. I think it's Spy Family in the fall and Kaiju number 8 in the summer. Okay. All right, I think that's all the big news we've got, so let's just I mean, we might as well keep talking about this stuff because otherwise this is probably going to be pretty short anyway. Maybe at the end we can just talk about our feelings. All right. So, we'll go into it. So, we got the only new stuff that aired on Toonami this week was the final 2 episodes of Invincible Fight Girl, namely episodes 9 and 10. All right, so we get the end of this season. Like the previous episode, we had her go up against the Perms again, which still sounds kind of like the Pervs when they say it. Anyway, so she's able to beat the guy, but then he has a big flashback about how he and his siblings had rough lives, and he did all the stuff in order to, like, you know, make things better for them, which seems kind of like a sudden, oh yeah, no, they did have a backstory that was at least kind of sympathetic before they became a bad guy. And I'm like, oh, is this from like Demon Slayer? Was it influenced by that? Anyway, so after so the villain gets the power up through that, but Andy's still able to beat them because she finally figures out the perfect strike, which she realizes, oh, it's not working for me because I'm trying to do it exactly like Aunt P did it, but I need to compensate because I'm, you know, different a little. And then she manages to pull it out and wins, and everything's all and it seems all great. Aunt P decides to say, okay, I'll train you, because I guess in some foreshadowing of a possible season 2. I don't know if we have any confirmation. This one scout guy from the DWC. I don't know. It's an acronym. It's a three-letter acronym, like it seems most acronyms are for organizations. Because he was trying to recruit her, and Aunt P's like saying, no, you won't do to her what you did to me, whatever that means. And then our season ends, basically. And I have been trying to figure out the guy who was a scout for like the DWC or whatever, whose name we never learn. She asked him what his name was, and we still don't get it. Why can't we just get a name? At least it would make things like the IMDb page more clear. But anyway, I've been thinking, okay, I've heard that voice. Where is it voiced from? And I finally was able to find who voiced him, looked up and go, oh, it's the president from Rick and Morty. That's where I heard the voice from. And a bunch of other places, but that was the most recent one. So yeah, that was our episodes of this show.
Okay. Yeah. I don't know. Are we talking about the thing as a whole or just these episodes?
Oh, I guess we can do both. Maybe just these episodes and the series as a whole.
Yeah, well, I will say that, okay, these episodes weren't too bad. I wasn't really a big fan of this show, though. I think it had a few good things about it, like its humor and stuff, but a lot of it, I don't know. It was funny, but it felt a little bit like we needed to learn the lesson of, you know, being ourselves or something like that. And it was, I hate shows that are there to teach people a lesson. I really hate when shows make a commentary on social life or whatever. I know what they're going for, but it just doesn't work for me. So overall, wasn't a big fan of this show. We'll find out tomorrow where exactly it ranks on my list, but you know it's not being ranked very high. So that's all I can give you.
Yeah. Well, for me, these final episodes, I thought they were okay. I mean, I was just kind of bored by the bad guys' flashbacks and stuff. I was like, did that really give us much about there? I mean, I guess it's the impetus for him getting like up and like stronger and all that stuff, but it just felt that just felt like a bunch of time that was unnecessary. And it's kind of an issue I've had several times with the series where I feel there's just a bunch of stuff they spent time on that wasn't necessary and kind of used up stuff like recent like episodes. What numbers were they? For example, episodes 6 and 7, that 2-part thing about where they go to the place where there's the like what were they like the finger gang and the toe gang or whatever who were fighting, and they spent 2 episodes on that, and we didn't get what did we get out of it really? I don't think there was anything that accomplished outside of, I guess, introducing some characters who we didn't see for the rest of the season. Now, like why have all this stuff with Birdie and Ever go Hulk out and then run away from everyone if you're not going to do anything with it by the end of the season? Now, maybe it'll be in the second season if there is a second season, in which case you could kind of forgive that. But it just felt like we just spent 2 episodes on that to not really accomplish much. And there were some other things where I kind of felt, yeah, we didn't have to spend as much time on that stuff. I look at the end of the season, I'm thinking this should have been like, several episodes earlier. That it feels like the season ended just when stuff was really happening. So, yeah. I think that's the biggest issue. Like, because there were some good episodes, there was some stuff I liked, but there's just too much stuff that's not necessary, really. And remember, this is only 10 episodes. This isn't like, like a cartoon where you got like, some of the older. Actually, I don't know how many season episodes sort of modern cartoons tend to get for their things. Let's see. I don't know what's a recent like cartoon. Let me just glance at something from a few years ago. Yeah, it's not like, it seems a bunch of cartoons like, you get like maybe like 20 episodes a season or something. So I'm like, okay, you do that, you're going to have some more, like episodes that don't really contribute to things, but we've got just 10 episodes. We didn't, I feel like I'm just repeating myself, but that is the biggest problem I have with this series. We could have definitely done some stuff faster, not spent time on some things, and then we could have had this episode earlier and then got a little more info. And then instead of, waiting for a second season that may or may not happen, decide to, we could then have some follow up on some of these things. And maybe we could have even learned that guy's name.
Yeah, we didn't have enough time to tell his name, but this wasn't one of those typical Bleach things where it's like, okay, if you are able to make me bleed, then I'll tell you my name. It's like just get it over with and let us know your name already. I mean, I've never understood that, but. That was the classic Bleach thing. I refuse to tell you my name unless you are able to cut me.
Well, even maybe his identity is supposed to be a plot twist and we're not supposed to know. Okay, then just have him give a fake name or an alias or something. Just something so I can call him something other than that scout guy. Is the problem. That's all I need. Like when they like you look at ReZero where Emilia, for unclear reasons in retrospect, didn't just tell Subaru her name and said that it was Satella. Okay, fine. That's like, actually I have no idea why she just didn't tell her her name back in those early episodes. I legitimately don't know. But my point is, we at least got a name, so until that point, we at least had something to refer to her as, other than that gray-haired girl, silver-haired. Sorry,
silver-haired.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't think she's that old.
Well, actually, well, technically, because she was like frozen in ice for so long, she actually is really old, technically speaking. Okay. All right. So, yep, that's it for Invincible Fight Girl. Definitely could have been quite a bit better, but at the same time, compared to some of the other stuff, it definitely could have been quite a bit worse.
Yeah.
Okay. I won't say where it is, but I'm just going to say, look, this was not in my bottom 5, okay? So, just to show that, yeah, plenty of stuff was worse than this. Okay. So, all right, we'll move from that on to the non-Toonami series we checked out. So, in this one, we went through 4 episodes of Yu Yu Hakusho. If I can remember everything that happened in all of them, because this is the problem with going through 4 episodes. Basically, the summary is that right, Hiei goes up against an opponent and manages to beat him pretty well. He used the, what was he called, Dragon of the Darkness Flame, which I remember because I feel like they say that phrase a whole lot as the series goes on. But he uses that to beat him, but apparently is no longer able to use his arm as well as a result. Yusuke ends up going up against the like captain of the team, the real captain, who wasn't there because he lost a rock paper scissors game, that but decides to show up anyway. He also drinks a bunch, and there's a bunch of funny stuff with that, but they end up fighting against each other. They got similar. Basically, after they both exhaust all their spiritual power, they just decide to punch at each other for a while. Yusuke manages to win, so their team continues onward, and then we see some other thing. Some of the other rounds in the tournament where some teams, well, unfortunately, they just got a job, so we get Toguro like one up, beating a full team single-handedly, and we also see the team that they're gonna fight beat another team also, and they're gonna fight them next. And yep, that goes through all that stuff. I'm wondering exactly, because I know they obviously did not have the stuff about the guy being drunk in Toonami, so I don't know how they edited that to keep that out of it. So, it's a little hard to give a rating to them when we got 4 episodes of different qualities. I'll definitely say Shu, I think his name was. He was the drunk guy. He was really funny. There were a lot of funny jokes with him. I liked him. I'm also reminded that I actually really liked the announcer girl. What's her? Koto, the Fox girl. She just kind of got her own personality, and there's a lot of funny jokes with her also. The fights themselves, I think, were just kind of, they were okay, but I don't know, there were a bunch of good, funny bits and some cool some fun character bits. So on the whole, I thought these were a decent sequence of episodes.
Yeah, I don't think they were too bad. I wasn't as interested in the fights as I was in all the humor going on in the background. And what was that? Kurobara's sister was doing something. I forget. Yeah. She smokes cigarettes, which makes me wonder, like, okay, how old is she? I mean, do they really want to be making a statement that you've got people below 18 smoking cigarettes? That might not be a good idea. So maybe she is over 18 though, but yeah.
Let's see. Shizuru, her age. Okay, according to the Yu Yu Hakusho wiki, I can't guarantee this information is correct, but They say that when she first appears, she's 17. By the Dark Tournament arc, that's this one, she's 18.
Very convenient.
I can't remember. Did she smoke before this arc, or was it only this time where we saw her do it?
I don't remember. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's I mean, the series was made quite a while ago. I mean, I don't know how much I don't know how much nowadays what it is. I'm trying to think of what anime have I seen more recently that involved like actual smoking. That was at least aimed for a younger audience necessarily. Let's see. I was just checking. Oh yeah, in case you were wondering, Sanji, he was 19 at the start of One Piece. So yeah, he was old enough if that is the age in Japan. I have no idea what the smoking age in Japan is. Let me actually look this up. This is a hard-hitting journalism you come to expect from us. Let's see, Japan. It is, according to this. Now, this might have been different at the time. Let me just see. Yeah, at least as of 2014, the age to smoke in Japan was 20. So, when did Yu Yu Hakusho originally run, both anime and manga? Let's see. The manga ran in from 1990 to 1994. That was a manga. The anime was 1992 to 1994. So yeah, early 90s. It might have been different then. I don't know. But yeah, I think you can definitely have more smoking stuff in anime than you can in the US, but it does seem like it's gone down a bit. It is still weird when you think about the fact, oh yeah, you can have like a kid's show of Sanji smoking, but even on more adult stuff, if someone pukes, you gotta blur it out. That's because some series do that. It's kind of weird. Okay. So yeah, we got all of that. So yeah, I thought these were decent episodes, but I agree the fights were less interesting than the stuff that's kind of happening around them.
Yeah, really.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So then we've got Burn the Witch episode 3. Yeah, I know we said that we go on to the second season, even though it actually takes place before, even though it was made afterwards, the anime. The timeline is very confusing. But we kind of skipped over that because turns out it wasn't dubbed, and we just kind of also figured, we want to get to the end of this arc on Yu Yu Hakusho, so we'll just put that aside.
Yeah.
Yep. So in this one, episode 3, which has the title, this is such a Bleach title because this is written by the guy who made Bleach. This one was called If a Lion Could Speak, We Couldn't Understand. That was the title, episode's title. I didn't notice the previous ones, but we got this.
I did see that, and I was like, huh? I guess I couldn't understand. Yeah.
So basically, to go through it, they end up having. There's that guy who's after. I can't remember his name. There's the enemy guy who's after. What was his name again? Balgo. That's it. Balgo, and he because he wanted to kill him because there was this execution thing issued for him, but then they all have to set that aside and team up to fight the dragon. So then the guys, I can't remember, was Bruno his name? Was it something else? I can't remember. But anyway, they managed to beat the thing. Everything's all good. The order to kill the guy gets rescinded, and then that girl, I guess, ends up joining their group, kind of. And yeah, then the episode, and then we're done, I guess, with it. Oh, and
Yeah.
don't ask me how this is actually supposed to fit into the general world, but we do see that they apparently work for because we did the before the sign was broken but it's fixed, and it says Soul Society West Branch. So I don't know how this is supposed to work at all in the setting of Bleach, but apparently it's the same setting, same universe.
How is that possible, though? Aren't they in London?
Yeah.
Wow.
They're in reverse London, which I think is some like
First London.
yeah, they didn't really explain it in here exactly. It's very confusing because what happened again with the manga. So they had a one shot, Burn the Witch. Now that is what, and then there was like a few chapters that were kind of made as a sequel. What we saw was those chapters that came later. That original one, which took place before this and kind of explained a bunch of stuff. Yeah, they only adapted that into an anime afterwards. That's like what's on listed on Crunchyroll as the second season. I think it's called like 0.8 or some episode 0.8 or something, because it takes place beforehand. It's really weird they decided to do that, because some of this stuff, like the part where the little like animal Balgo is holding, like was going like, I want to see your panties, and then and then Noelle gets really angry about it. That only makes sense if you've seen that thing that took place beforehand, because it's a reference to something there. And here it just happens and doesn't make any sense.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very weird decision to make them, because I need to make it clear again, this was the order they were made. They made this. They made the later stuff first, and then the first stuff later for the anime, which is kind of confusing. They reordered a few things. The whole Soul Society West Branch, if I remember correctly, that was in the original one. The first of the one shots and not the later parts, but I think they moved it here because I guess since they didn't know they would be adapting that original thing later, they decided to put it here. Let me just double check. Let me pull up the manga. Yeah, in the meantime, what did you think of it?
I like this episode. Yeah, my favorite character is Kikuro, or that's what I call her, but her real name is Minnie, right?
Ninny.
Yeah. Yes, she's my favorite character in this show. I thought this episode was pretty good, and I thought, as a whole, I have mixed opinions on it, but it wasn't bad. So, yeah, that's what I'd say.
Oh, okay, so I'm checking. Yes, in the original manga, it was a one-shot, not this stuff. The thing that aired later but took place before this one. Wow, if any listeners understand all this stuff I'm saying, thank you. Yeah, the whole part where he's like going, yeah, I want to see your panties or whatever that was happened at the end of that one, which the original thing, because there had been a running joke throughout that chapter about that. So, and then it's just thrown in here except without the setup. So it's very weird that it has that. So yeah, it definitely made this more confusing than it needed to be, that decision to make them like that. Because you were probably confused about a bunch of stuff in this.
Yeah. Yeah, it was kind of confusing. I have to say that. But I liked it pretty much this week, so
yeah,
that's good.
I think my biggest issue, I think it was decent. The problem I had again is the fact that the way they did it meant that they just throw you into this without setup, and also the fact there's been no continuation, because this really feels like it's trying to set up stuff. It like, introduces some new characters, and then it hasn't done anything with them yet. Like the part where I think the second episode where we see like all like the leaders of the organization, all sitting at this table, and and they've got some wacky designs and wacky names, and you're thinking, it's exactly the sort of thing they would do that later on in the story you'd be introduced to all of them. Early in Soul Society arc, wasn't there a part where we see all like the captains gathered together in a meeting and
Right,
stuff?
right.
It was that equivalent, except it would be like if instead of us meeting the captains afterwards, it was just like, well, they made it to Soul Society. Maybe we'll continue this one day. But so the problems I have with this are not really what the story itself. It's the context of the sort of confusing nature of its presentation and the fact it feels like it's setting stuff up, because there's supposed to be more of the manga, but we just haven't gotten any. Maybe it'll come back, maybe not. So it's a tricky one for me to rank because it just feels like an unfinished story.
Yeah, I know what you mean by that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's like I got it. It's like a pilot that for a TV series that wasn't actually picked up.
Yeah, that's a good description. Yep.
All right. So that's all the stuff we watched for the podcast.
Uh-huh.
Any
top three is a little weird today.
We watched 3 shows.
Yeah. I don't include Invincible Fight Girl, but even if I did, it wouldn't have made it. So I've got third place and second place being episodes of Yu Yu Hakusho, and the top spot goes to Burn the Witch.
Okay. All right. So yeah, we got all of that. I should give my rankings. Well, there were 3 shows we watched, but I guess I just do, Invincible from 3rd to 1st, Invincible Fight Girl, Burn the Witch, Yu Yu Hakusho. Okay. So, got all that. I guess I might as well talk a little about an anime I recently watched. I decided to go through Quality Assurance in Another World. Yeah, that's the name of the series. It aired earlier this year. I decided, again, as part of, I've talked before, I'm trying to watch some stuff dubbed in Spanish, try to improve my skills in that. This is the first one I actually, because before this, all the stuff that I watched in that was something I had like seen before, knew about like the source material. This was the first one that was actually new that I just watched. Well, I can't say the whole thing because for the final episode I switched to the English dub because I was curious as to what the character sounded like. But up until that, I did it all in Spanish. I think I understood it pretty well, although I don't know. Maybe the characters were just being more clear than other series I've gone to, because how comprehensible someone's Spanish is can just depend so much on who's talking. Because some people like have these harder to understand accents.
Yeah.
Anyway, the series itself. So basically, the premise of this is that there's a lot of people who are in this VR game, and they're supposed to debug, except then after a while they find themselves unable to log out of it. And so, so basically they got Sword Art Onlined? I don't know. Something like that. So most of them just kind of use the thing to just sort of goof off and do random stuff, but our main character is deciding to still try to file bug reports and stuff. And in the hopes that both because he seems completely obsessed with it. That's like a recurring thing on him, that he is just obsessed with doing this. Like there's this part where at the end where he gets kind of transported to this library and he's trying to find his way out, and then he just looks and he's like, oh, I wonder if they have things in them, and he opens the books and reads them, and then he's like saying, what do you, and he's complaining about like the alignment and how the spacing is wrong and some of the stuff isn't fitting on the page, and starts writing it all down to report it. It was kind of fun that way. There is some like more serious stuff in it, but I don't know. It's a tricky series to describe because I feel like it's not that. I feel like while there's not anything particularly special about it, I still enjoyed it on the whole. The biggest problem I had with it is that, so we've talked sometimes they're about how we've encountered, especially this year, some of those, hey, go read the source material endings. This is the worst
Right.
of them, honestly, because when we got to the end of Dark Gathering, we commented on that. It just feels like it kind of stops. But there, at least, it was kind of between arcs, sort of. It felt like kind of an abrupt thing, but it wasn't in the middle of something. There was Full Metal Panic, Invisible Victory, which was just a straight up cliffhanger. But again, it concluded the arc they were currently on. It ended at a particular. It ended like at the end of one of the books, I think. So even if it's a cliffhanger, it's at least a natural stopping point, you could say. This one just ends midway through a fight that happens midway through an arc.
Wow.
It's very weird.
Kind
There.
of like Yo Musi Pedal.
I can't even say that because at least Yomushi Pedal kind of was like at the midway point in the race when its first season ended. And actually, did I need to check on that? Was that did its first and did it like go directly into its second season, or was there a break? Let me check on that. Oh wow, the manga has been running so long. It's got 90 volumes.
Oh my.
It's got, for comparison, hang on. I need to see how many volumes let me just check. So that's 90. For reference, Bleach had 74.
Wow.
Okay, but now I'm looking at this. Wait, I'm looking at the chapters. I need to look at the episodes. Wrong place.
You need to pedal faster.
Yeah. I'm checking. Just trying to check the air dates of these things. Yeah, so we finished in episodes. Yeah, so we went through the first season. That went. Yeah, there was a break, but it wasn't a very long one. The first season of Yomushi Pedal ended June of 2014, and then the second season started in October of that year. So just like you know like a 4 month break. So, but again, that was a better one. I just need to stress it. What happened literally is that they beat this this big enemy, and we're in the middle of an arc, just in the middle, and they beat this enemy there, and then the enemy's like comes back with like a second form, and then that's literally where the season ends. And we don't have any announcements on any future stuff. Now, to be fair, the manga is out there. It is in English. You can just continue on that, and I'm thinking of doing that. But it really felt it was probably the biggest go read the source material ending I think I've seen, just because of where it just stops. There, like it stops in the middle of a fight, in the middle of an arc. I've never seen something quite like that before. So yeah, I complained a bunch about that, but I don't know. I got into the show. I liked it for the most part. Had some issues there, but on the whole, I thought it was enjoyable. Even if I, in some ways, can't even really say why I liked it, but I did. Yeah, it seems a bunch of other people didn't, because how did it end up on my anime list? I remember it was kind of low. Oh yeah, it's at only 6.55, so that's kind of low. I would have given it an 8, I think. Or well, nah, I would have given it a 7.5, partially because I was annoyed by that cliffhanger, but I'd round it up to an 8, I guess. So that's my haphazard description of this anime I watched. If it gets another season, I'll check it out, I'm sure. Yeah, I don't think I have anything else to say about that. It was interesting that was a title that they had, because the original, what was the original Japanese title? That was one where they kind of switched it. The original Japanese title was just "This World is Too Defective." I think quality assurance in another world sounds a little better, but all right. So that was my discussion there. Anything you had to talk about? We've got the time.
We do have the time. No, nothing anime or anything related. I really haven't had enough time to do much lately. So I hope to get back to Shy. I've watched the first 2 episodes of Shy, and I want to watch more of it, but I had to put that on the back burner for now. So we'll see if I am able to get back to that soon.
Okay. All right. Yeah, so we got that. And yeah, I don't think I have anything else to say other than, since we've got all this extra time, here is something interesting I found. There's this new this light novel series called Hell Mode, and it got an anime announced, and someone noted that with this announcement, the top 10 most viewed series of all time on what was the name of the Naru? What's the full name? I'm sorry, I just need to check on this before I see it. Oh yeah, Shosetsuka ni Naru. It's that popular Japanese site where people post stories. A bunch of the popular ones get made into light novels, and then if they get popular, eventually anime. It's also the reason why you get so many series with these lengthy titles, because you have to actually click on the title thing to see the description of the series. So of course people just have to put the description in the title. That's how you get, things like, that time I got reincarnated as a slime, or campfire cooking another world with my absurd skill, or any of those other ones. Anyway, so what I was going to say was that here are apparently the top 10 viewed series on that site. And all of these, except for that one I just mentioned, have anime. You'll probably recognize all of these. Here's the listing if you're kind of curious. Number 10 is The Eminence in Shadow. Number 9 is ReZero. Number 8 is So I'm a Spider, So What? Number 7 is The Apothecary Diaries. Number 6 is Hell Mode. Number 5 is Ari Ferretta. Number 4 is Dahlia in Bloom, which is a little surprising to me that it's apparently that popular, because I didn't see the anime, but from everything I've heard, they really, really cheapened out on the animation in it. Number 3 is Mushoku Tensei. Number 2 is Reincarnated as a Slime. And number 1 is, I'd ask if you have any guesses, but I don't know if you've ever even heard of this series. It's Campfire Cooking in Another World with My Absurd Skill. The most viewed story on that site, apparently, is just a story about a guy who makes really tasty, his skill is he's able to, when he has money, buy modern day supplies and stuff, so he uses it to be able to make really good food that everyone really likes, and in this RPG world, apparently that powers people up. That's what the story is about. It was actually kind of good, but I'm very surprised that's number 1. I'm sure you recognize some of the series I mentioned there. So
yeah.
Yep, there's your knowledge on that. As for that series I mentioned, Hell Mode, apparently that's the premise of that one is it's an isekai series, but the main character decides to choose the hardest difficulty for it when he gets transported. I haven't read it. It's one of those things I've heard from some people. It starts out interesting but gets less interesting as it goes on, but that's all secondhand. So yeah. Now we got all those things getting anime, and we'll be getting more still. So many web novels have turned into anime. It's the new pipeline. Well, I for real, I think I'm done with all that. Do I have anything interesting else to say? No, not No, not really. Um, so I guess we'll just finish with that. And yeah, well, we ended up rambling on for a bit longer than I expected. But that's
Yeah, so tomorrow our big episode is our favorite episode of the year each year whenever we do a ranking of all shows we watched, and this year there are 28,
Mhm.
most of which are anime. We got a few non-anime um, shows that were on Toonami, and we got one live action show that's also in the mix.
Mhm.
And
It was based on an anime, though.
yeah, so 28. So if you're going to listen to that, beware. It's going to be long. It's going to be a marathon, and we don't know how long we'll go. We might not finish until 2025, but we are going to be doing that. And just as a preview, I have 5 different tiers for my shows on the list. So be get ready to hear what these tiers are whenever we do this tomorrow. But until then, that's all I've got.
I can't come up with tiers outside. I guess I guess it is like there's my top 5, my bottom 5, and then everything in between is kind of like a muddled mess. It's actually kind of interesting how there really was, I feel like, a notable difference between the top. There's like the top 5, and then there's definitely a more bigger gap between those and everything before it. And then there's a bottom 5, and then kind of a bigger gap between that and the one right up there. And then everything in between is, some are better than others, but it's much harder. My top 5 and bottom 5 were so easy to make, and the rest I'm so unsure about.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, well, we've been rambling on enough about how we've been rambling on for so long. So
Yep.
with that, we'll all see you for our next episode, end of the year ranking, and we'll see how it turns out. Okay.
Yep.
And yep, see you next time.
Bye.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to our year-end podcast of Toonami Therapy, where we're going to be counting down, or maybe more accurately, counting up the series, the various series that we watched enough of this year to properly evaluate. So, I'm Michael.
Okay. I'm Tom. Yeah, hello, I'm Tommy.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And yeah, we'll be starting it. Before we get into it, just a few thoughts about the year as a whole. This is, I'm pretty sure, our biggest list. We've ended up with 28 things to rank, which
that's by far the most.
Yeah, it's part of it is the fact that we lit up several of the series according to like different seasons and stuff, because maybe we had different thoughts on some of them. So here I'm just going to go through all of them really quickly so that everyone knows what they are. So we've got
No particular order.
Oh, these are in alphabetical order. They are in a particular order.
Okay.
So we've got Burn the Witch, Dark Gathering, Demon Slayer Entertainment District Arc, Demon Slayer Swordsmith Village Arc, Dragon Ball Z Kai, all that aired this year. It was basically up through just about before the Frieza fight, I think. Full Metal Panic Fumofu, Full Metal Panic Invisible Victory, Full Metal Panic The Second Raid, Invincible Fight Girl, Lycoris Recoil, Kaguya-sama Love is War, The First Kiss That Never Ends, Kaiju Number 8, Konosuba Season 3, My Adventure with Superman Season 2, My Teen Romantic Comedy Snafu Seasons 2 and 3, Naruto, what they aired here, it stopped midway through the Chunin exams, and they skipped over the Land of Waves, which, if they hadn't, probably would have bumped it up a little in our rankings from what I remember. But continuing, Ninja Kamui, One Piece. At the start of the year, I think we were midway through Luffy fighting at the Coliseum. We've got
Wow.
that's the anime. Also separately, One Piece live action. We've got Oshinoko Season 2, ReZero Season 3, well, Season 3 Part 1, I guess. Rick and Morty the anime, Sailor Moon, they aired all of Season 1, Shangri-La Frontier, Season 1, Spice and Wolf, Merchant Meets the Wise Wolf, Uzumaki, Yu Yu Hakusho up through like just the first round of the Dark Tournament, and Zom 100. Whew.
That's a lot.
Yep. So we've got that's all of those. A lot of series. Unfortunately, I think on the whole this wasn't the best year either for Toonami or for our rankings. I'm like in some past years I like felt so bad. Oh, I'm putting this show at the bottom, and I actually kind of liked it. But here I'm like, wow, there are multiple shows here at the bottom that I just really had no care for. And unfortunately for Toonami, probably the best thing that they aired this year is Mashal, but it's too new for us to include on this ranking, so we'll have to wait till next year for that.
Yep.
Yep. Also, if for long-time listeners, I have no idea if there are any, you might notice that we are doing Licorice Recoil, even though we ranked it like 2 years ago when we watched it originally off Toonami. But yeah, we rewatched it and maybe our opinions shifted on it a little as a result. There's several series in here that I kind of rewatched at some point that changed my opinion. So, all right, I think that's all of the beginning of it. I'll be trying to keep track of both of our rankings just so I can find out what the average of everything is at the end. So you might hear me doing a bunch of typing in the background on that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's it then. All right, let's just get into it. Whoa, one last question. I know we did some kind of predictions over each other's lists, like, what would be our highest or lowest, what the average, highest, average, lowest, where we split the most on. But a new thing just to ask. Podcast length, over, under, 2 hours.
I'm going with the over.
Okay, we'll find out. All right.
I need to stall a little bit though. Make sure I get that over.
All right. So here we go. We'll start now with I'm going first. So 28th place for me. I was originally going to have some sort of intro to it, but I'll just come out and say it. Wait, I just realized I just did do an intro to it. Number 28 for me was Rick and Morty, the anime. It, we kind of said it a lot of times when we watch it. It's just, what does it feels so completely different from the original show. So what's it for? Is it for Rick and Morty fans? Most of them didn't seem to like it because it's so different. The whole kind of comedy is different, and even as just a more standalone thing, it was just kind of boring. Like, the best thing I can probably say about it is that it did make me decided to check out Rick and Morty and say, oh, yeah, that show's a lot better than this one. Yeah, so that's...
Yeah.
Oh, go on.
I didn't get that prediction right.
Okay.
I pretty sure I got a different prediction right though. But I predicted your lowest would be Sailor Moon.
Oh, so. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh wow. Okay. That's all right. Well, we'll see where that ended up being. So that's all I've got to say for that. I'll actually ironically have a little more to say about the next one as why I put that above Rick and Morty. But in regards to that, that's just basically it. Yeah, not a great show. Definitely did not deserve to be 12 episodes, and it was the series that I probably just felt the most bored watching out of everything.
Okay, so it's my turn.
Yes.
Okay, I want to explain. I have tiers for my shows. I have 5 shows that are in the top rank. That's shows I love. There's 5 shows below that, shows I like, and there's 8 shows which are shows with mixed opinions. Then I've got 5 shows that I label as typical shonen fare. And finally, the bottom 5 are named I Blame Jason DeMarco. So, so that kind of gives away what's coming up at the bottom here. But number 28 is not Rick and Morty the anime. Even though Rick and Morty the anime was boring, I had to go with a show that I hated with a passion, and that is Zom 100, Bucket List of the Dead. And Zom 100 tried to be serious when it should have been funny. It tried to be funny when it should have been serious. It did everything wrong. The characters are so forgettable. I don't remember a single character's name. I don't remember anything about pretty much any of the characters except the one guy liked to get naked. The plot was stupid. Things were ridiculous. Things didn't make any sense. It was a complete and utter dumpster fire. And I hate that show with such a passion. So, yeah, like, it's one thing if the show's boring, but whenever the show makes me mad, that's when I have to rank it at the very bottom. So, yeah, Zom 100 gets the coveted or uncoveted lowest spot on my list.
You still like it more than Tokyo Ghoul, though, right?
Maybe.
I don't know. I just remember at some point you said that you still disliked Tokyo Ghoul more. So I feel like you said that to me at some point, and I actually got that right. That was my prediction for you for your lowest spot. I almost originally was going to guess Rick and Morty the anime, but then I decided, nah, it's Zom 100. Okay. All right. First blood to me, as they say.
Yeah.
All right. So number 27 for me. Still low. Now, both this and Rick and Morty the anime were probably the series that I just kind of felt the most checked out of, as you could say. I kind of just ended up not really caring what was going on. This one, I feel, got a little higher, because as a simple tiebreaker, I feel this had more of a reason to exist. Because Rick and Morty the anime, I look kind of like the sequels to Fooly Cooley, where I'm like, this just really feels like some sort of some corporate person thought, hey, we should really milk some more out of this popular IP. And getting to it, number 27 is Ninja Kamui, which again I didn't really like, but it had a better start than Rick and Morty the anime. It at least got some interest at that, but quickly lost it. But again, it was trying to do something. I don't think it did it very well, but I feel it and everything above it had much more of a reason to actually exist. Even if it was bad, it still had a better reason to exist. So while it's still low, that's why I didn't put it at the lowest. So we've got and that is number 27 for me. Okay,
so number 27 for me is Rick and Morty the anime. I think this show dropped even lower whenever I started watching the actual Rick and Morty, because I was like, this show isn't that bad. I mean, sure, it has too much crude humor, too much cursing, and doesn't make much sense, but at least it can be funny at times. And Rick and Morty anime was not funny. It was not entertaining. There was nothing good about it, nothing redeemable about it. And I feel like if you're a fan of Rick and Morty, you should actually be angry at this, because it gave such a bad impression of what Rick and Morty is. Yeah, I think it was just a cash in type of thing,
Mhm.
where Toonami thought, well, Adult Swim, whoever, whatever the company is, they thought, well, we've got this really uh, popular show. Let's try to make it an anime out of it and see if we can promote that on our blog and get more viewers. Well, maybe they got more viewers, but they did not get a good show. This Rick and Morty is just Rick and Morty itself is fine, but Rick and Morty in anime is not fine. It's terrible, and I blame Jason DeMarco for putting it on the air.
Yeah, I actually would. Yeah, what your description of the original Rick and Morty? Yeah, yeah. I kind of like think some of the adult stuff in it is unnecessary, but it's got some good jokes and things. So that was mine, and well, then the rest of it you said. So, yeah. All right. Moving on to number 26. This is a series I feel so weird putting this low. I was just really surprised it ended up this low. And I kind of feel like I'm going to get a bunch of people angry at me. Well, I don't know. We don't have that many listeners, but maybe all of our listeners are going to get angry at this because number 26 is Demon Slayer Swordsmith Village arc. Again, this is a series that I just checked out of like so much this season. And this is because like it's just a bunch of fighting against enemies I don't really care about, mostly involving, and even the hero characters I don't really care that much about because Inosuke, the best character, isn't around in this entire arc. And it's not even just that I like Inosuke, it's just that he and like he's got a good rapport with the other characters that makes them more interesting. So I just kind of just so yeah, it had at least actually the best part of the season was probably the first episode, which had Inosuke in it, if I remember correctly.
Hanging from the ceiling, right?
Yeah, that joke with him, probably the best thing about the season. Yeah, so yeah, it feels so weird to put this so low, but I just kept realizing every other show had at least a little something more that I liked, and just not this one. So yeah, maybe we'll get the other characters back for the next season if they air it. So hopefully we'll be better. But I was really surprised just how much of a drop I thought this one was, and was very surprised where it ended up, but I gotta try to be mostly honest with these. And,
okay. Now go ahead.
Oh, no, I was about to say that you should go ahead, and then you started talking.
Okay. Okay, let's see. What do I got here? Okay, number 26. Well, seems like I'm kind of copying you here, but it's Ninja Kamui. And my biggest problem with this show is that I could not understand what the hell was going on at all. Like the first half of the first episode was like, okay, I see where this is going. This might be interesting. It's probably not going to be good, but at least I was like, okay, I can follow this. And after that, I couldn't follow it anymore. It was so confusing. And it was just nothing in it really made sense. And I felt like I was watching something in a different language. That's how weird it was for me. So now, why is it higher than Rick and Morty? Well, because Rick and Morty, I was completely checked out of, and I was somewhat checked out of Ninja Kamui, but at least it had a good start to it,
Mm-hmm.
and it had some better action than Rick and Morty. It had a few things that would possibly rank it into a 2 out of 10 instead of a 1 out of 10. But yeah, Ninja Kamui, another mistake by Toonami, but we're used to those at this point.
Yeah. Okay. For me, 25. This one was Zom 100. I did not dislike this nearly as much as you did. I mean, there were even some parts I thought were at least kind of interesting. It at least kept my attention better than the 3 series I put below it. But at the same time, I just kind of feel I didn't really care that much about the characters. It just did a lot of things. I don't know. It's hard for me to even say it because so much of it is just kind of a blur to me. I just thought, yeah, that was a bunch of stuff that happened, and for the most part, I didn't really care about it. So, yeah, I didn't exactly. I mean, I didn't like it. But I didn't hate it. It just was kind of. I guess, like I said, it's here because it kept my attention and interest a little more than the series below, which had mostly lost it, even if I ultimately didn't really care that much about it. I'm kind of having almost trouble articulating my thoughts on this overall, but I just think, yeah, not that great of a series for me. At least the anime. I haven't read the manga. Maybe it's not a great adaptation. Who knows? But at what I saw ends up here.
Okay. 25. We've got Invincible Fight Girl. And this probably isn't much of a surprise. I feel like this show is trying to make some sort of social statement, and I really, really hate when shows have to do that, but that's kind of the way it is now in American TV. Invincible Fight Girl, so much stuff doesn't make sense, and the plot is kind of convoluted, and I just feel like it's another bad choice by Toonami, but it is at least had a couple of funny moments, which is more than the 3 shows below it. So, yeah, I would put Invincible Fight Girl at number 25.
Okay. Me, 24. This would be, for me, my adventure with Superman Season 2. I mean, the season I think started okay. It started decent. Not as well as the first season did, but still decent. But then as it went on, it got more and more, it got, well, I was about to say more and more less interesting. So, which actually I like that phrase. I'll keep it. But, and I just ended up, again, this is the thing about what's so, on so many of these lower things. I just checked out of it. I watched it and I didn't really absorb much of it past a certain point and just was not that interested in it by the end. It's really the same arc as the first season, which we didn't end up ranking this because I think you didn't see a bunch of it, but where I thought, okay, this is a pretty good start, and then it kind of, as it goes on, it just gets like less and less interesting. So that ends up being here. But it definitely at least did have some decent stuff early on, which is why it ended up here. But that later stuff I seem to remember being pretty bored with, so yeah.
Okay, well, we're kind of in lockstep with these bottom shows because my 24th show is also My Adventures with Superman, and the final entry in my lowest tier here. Now, there were occasional times whenever there was some humor or some interesting plots to this. It wasn't completely irredeemable, but it tried to make too many social points and get a little political, and I just hate that kind of stuff. So that always makes me drop it. Like, it may have actually made it higher than this if it wasn't for those things. So, yeah, my adventure was Superman. The first season was better than this season, and I get the feeling the next season is going to be worse than this season was, and we're just going to keep on getting worse and worse. But yeah, it falls into that 24th slot. Not much else I can say about it, but yeah, not a very good show.
Okay. So let's see. I think I wrote something wrong here. I'm just trying to check. Okay. Okay. Yep. It's interesting. I didn't make tiers of my list, but I also definitely like. You said that the lowest tier was these 5. I thought that definitely the bottom 5 for me were definitely much lower than the things that are above it. So there's to me a bigger jump between 24 and 23 than anything between 24 and 28. So number 23, it would be that's Sailor Moon season 1. Well, like I said, I've said before, when I was a kid, I absolutely despised this series. Now that I've rewatched it as an adult, it actually pretty much almost all the criticisms I had of the series are valid, but I do think that I over exaggerated them when I was a kid. But so I did like it more, but still, we do just have the problem. There is so much filler in this series, so many unnecessary episodes, and like I said, I've seen a bunch of people say that a problem with the original manga was that they just didn't develop the characters, they didn't give them enough focus, and that was an advantage of this series, that they managed to do more of that. Both the heroes and the villains. The villains got a lot of them got more personality here than they did in the original series, I've heard. The problem is, that can explain some of the extra episodes, not all of them. There's just too many episodes that do not need to be here at all. If this was like half the length, it would have been a lot better. But it's still, despite buried underneath all the padding and filler and repetitive plots, there is a decent plot here. And if they had, again, if they just one day, I'd like to say if they made a Sailor Moon Kai, but some people might say, well, that's what Sailor Moon Crystal is. But Sailor Moon Crystal is the adaptation of the original series, which, as I've heard repeatedly, you need a medium between these. So maybe we can have the original anime just with the totally filler stuff cut out for that happy medium. But that's not what we got. Now you've mentioned that it got better after the first season, so that might be the case. But based on just this first season, it was just kind of mediocre to me.
Okay. All right, we're on number 23, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, this is the section called Typical Shonen Fare. So you can kind of guess which shows are going to be here. The first one, the bottom of those 5 is Demon Slayer Swordsmith Village Arc. Yeah, I really had a hard time thinking of anything to say that was different from what you said. Like Inosuke not being around, that hurt. Just random battles, random fights. Just a weird. I don't know. I don't want to say weird, but some of these enemies didn't really act like intelligently, and I just felt it was just a pretty mediocre. Well, I wouldn't call it mediocre because it's not that good. Um, it's it was very unentertaining and a big disappointment after seeing the previous arc. So yeah, it gets my number 23 spot.
For me, number 22 is the One Piece anime. It's got a lot of the same problems that you can say Sailor Moon has, in that it just takes too long for stuff to happen. But I would say, as annoying as all of its padding was, I mean, when it comes to, there's a question about, filler episodes versus padding, because a lot of people say they like filler episodes more because you can just skip over them easily, whereas a padding, you have to just sit there and take it. And I think there's some very strong merit to that. But the thing is, when you actually have to sit down and watch every single episode, I think the padding actually ends up being a little better. So we didn't have that much outright filler episodes, but there is a whole lot of padding and stuff in One Piece, which unfortunately really hurts what I think would have otherwise been a pretty good arc. Now, I didn't read this arc, most of this arc in the original manga, but I can tell looking at this that if the pacing was just better, if we were having, so if it was at the standard rate of other anime where you have 2 or 3 chapters of the manga in each episode of the anime, rather than having half of a chapter in an episode of an anime, this would probably be really good. And I think some of those things still shine through, but you just have to go through all of the padding and the pacing problems. It's just, I've never seen, I feel like, just one thing, well, I can't say one thing take it down, because there's plenty of series that had a terrible ending that destroyed it, but I haven't seen something where it's just the same thing over and over and over, bringing the series down like this. It's all the padding. If you were to just fix that, so many this would be so much better. This I expect would at least jump up 10 spots at least, if they just didn't have all the padding.
I don't know about that. 10 spots is pretty high to jump, but yeah, but actually my 22nd pick is not One Piece. It's Dragon Ball Z Kai, and the reason for that is simply I've never been a fan of Dragon Ball. I find some of the stuff funny, but I really don't really care about the show all that much. Now, there were some good moments, I have to admit. I was looking at one of my past lists, and one year I had Dragon Ball Z Kai at dead last, and I was like, well, that's a little too harsh. But yeah, I just never been a Dragon Ball fan. I don't see the appeal of Goku, why he's so popular. That doesn't make much sense to me, because he seems to be a pretty one-note character, in my opinion. All he does is eat food and fights, and that's pretty much it. So, yeah, Dragon Ball Z Kai, we finally got back to the place where I started watching the show. So I feel like we've come full circle. And I just feel like if I don't like it now, then I'm never going to like it. So, yeah. Dragon Ball Z Kai, number 22.
Okay. Next for me, Sorry, I'm looking at my list and I'm thinking. Wait, did I? Because I think there were some changes. Something I changed. Did I like undo some changes I made to this by accident? Because okay, hang on. Let me just make a quick adjustment. Yeah, it would make. I'm just switching a few things because I thought I switched them, but then I don't think I did. So okay, so doesn't matter. I'm back to 21. 21. That one is Invincible Fight Girl for me. I can tell that I enjoyed it more than you did, and it did have some stuff I really liked. But it also just had some stuff that brought it down. There were too many episodes. It didn't really feel like it had much to do with anything. So, I feel like I discussed it all last week, but I really liked some parts of this, and a lot of it was just kind of boring. A good amount of it was just kind of boring. I feel like my opinions, my opinions are kind of like a more positive version of Superman. It's not the same that it started out really great, then it got bad. It was more of like, like a sinus wave, like up and down with things. But on the whole, yeah, I mean, there was some good effort in some parts, but there were just too many weak points to it. But I think, yeah, it's still a series that, if I can see enough promise in it that I would be interested in a second season if it fixed up the problems with it. But the problems are there, unfortunately, and that did drop it down a bit.
Okay. 21 now?
Yes.
Okay, for 21, I am going to select One Piece anime. And this is not a surprise. It goes with my shonen theme here. One Piece has so much padding, and half the episodes I end up falling asleep before the end of the episode, which is never a good thing. And other times I'm just sitting there waiting for it to end. One Piece did have some redeeming things, such as unintentional humor. That always helps us. So unintentional humor, and even some intentional humor with Usopp, because Usopp, that whole thing with Usopp and the toys, and they think he's some sort of a god. It's kind of like C-3PO, and that was actually very funny, and I have to admit that was pretty good. But I mean, come on, you took Nami, you took Chopper. Who else did they take? Take them completely out of the show.
Brooke's
And
also gone.
Brooke, yeah. Brooke's gone. So you got 3 out of your crew are completely out of the show, and they've been missing for now over a year. I mean, that's just ridiculous. That there's no excuse for that. So yeah, One Piece. Oh, and then we have the padding problems too, because it's padding everything. And I gotta be honest, I actually started to enjoy this show more for just looking for padding than I do for the show itself. So if that's why I'm enjoying your show, that's probably not a good thing. And yep, so One Piece falls short of the top 20 and makes it to the 21st spot.
Hey, oh come on, that it's not fair to say it's been a year since we've seen Nami and the others. I know we saw them at least in February. I'm just glancing over the episodes list on Wikipedia, and I just did a search. Okay, where does Nami show up? And it's like, yep, well, she did appear in the episode that aired on February 11th, but her name doesn't show up anytime later. So at least of the episodes that aired this year. So yeah, but it has been a while. Unfortunately, you mentioned some things like everyone like thinking Usopp was the greatest and stuff. Unfortunately, that was also suffered from padding. Remember how long that bit where he was trying to say something, but they misheard him and misinterpreted it as something? And I showed you how that whole thing was like a 1-page joke in the manga. So yeah. All right. So we got that. Then for 20th place for me, this is one I feel kind of a bit bad being this low because I liked it more last year, but I found seasons 2 and 3 of my teen romantic comedy Snafu to be a considerable step down from it. It kind of felt like it took the stuff that I didn't like about the series and focused a lot more on it, while leaving behind the stuff that I liked more about it. There's still some good stuff here. There were some funny bits. The characters were still decent, but a lot of the times I was just kind of thinking, okay, they were just spending all this time on stuff I didn't really care that much about, and it started doing this thing that I mentioned where it seems like characters are talking about something, but they won't actually say what they're talking about. So they are almost like, so like I'm left thinking, where did what are they talking about? So when there's some stuff that later on that happens, like, characters end up together, and I'm like, oh, so I guess a bunch of their talking was about possible relationships, except they did it in such a roundabout way. It felt like, how sometimes when they have like, the villain group making plans and they try in like a cartoon and they like deliberately have them kind of speak in a weird way so that they don't give spoilers, like when the character says, all right, once we accomplish that, our plan will be complete. So much of it felt like that. But like I said, there's still some good stuff here, but I definitely think it was a step down from the first season, which I thought was pretty decent.
Okay. Number 20. Naruto. Not much to say here. I think the biggest thing I took away from this is that I'm amazed at how popular all the minor characters are in Naruto, because they really didn't get all that great of a introduction based on what we saw. Everything circles around Sasuke, and pretty much every girl is just a fangirl of Sasuke. And since all the girls love him, then all the girls kind of blend into each other, and there's really not much to them. Now, obviously, there's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of episodes to go. So yes, these characters do get fleshed out later. In fact, some of them get fleshed out not too long after this part where we left off. But for what we had there, Naruto is pretty much what I remember it being before the Chunin exam arc, and it could be a lot better, but we can only go by what we saw this year and saw on Toonami Rewind. So I'm going with that. So, yep, Naruto, number 20.
Okay. Number 19, it's 19 for me. It's funny that you say Naruto, because number 19 for me is Uzumaki, which is Naruto's last name. But yeah, this series has nothing to do with Naruto. It's all about spirals, which is what Uzumaki means in Japanese. It's a little. I have been a little surprised at how much some people seem to really dislike this series. I mean, it's sitting at a 5.86 on my anime list. It's also one of the biggest drops because when it premiered, it was at an 8.14. So that's like a pretty significant drop of like more than no, not more than 3 points, but like about 2.5 points. So, well, a little less. You know what I mean. Math is hard, but I still think this was actually on the whole pretty decent. Yes, I know that the animation got worse after the first episode, but I still think it was passable. I know that like people complain about it rushing through stuff, but I still think it worked out okay. I don't know. I just think that it mostly managed to like kind of be a bit spooky, have some mysteries. The conclusion doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but it didn't in the source material. It at least felt. I definitely thought it was decent. I do wonder if even the people, because everyone always says that all the adaptations of Junji Ito's works are bad, always turn out bad, and I've seen a bunch of people say that Uzumaki is just another example of it. And but I have been wondering, do the people who say that, do they at least say that Uzumaki was the best of them? So I don't know. I haven't seen the other adaptations, but I just think it for what it was, it worked okay for me. It's a shame that people focus so much on the animation quality drop, which I don't think it was that bad. It's a definite big drop, but if we weren't so spoiled with the first episode, I think people wouldn't have minded it so much. And even if we've just got the first episode, I think people should at least give the first episode credit, because that's what I see so many people saying. First episode, great. Rest, not good. So yeah, that's me saying all of that. And yeah, that's number 19 for me.
Okay, that number 19 is the end of the typical shonen fare, and that belongs to Yu Yu Hakusho. It started out pretty good. I'll say that much. I thought the first arc was very entertaining, and then it took a sharp dive from there, and hasn't been the same show ever since. Kind of makes you wonder if Yusuke would have been better off dead, because the best moments of this show happened while he was dead. And yeah, I think there's some good things about it. I mean, you have Kuwabara, and you have sorry, I just had to say it that way because that's the way they all said it at that con. Kuwabara. And that guy was so popular. And I'm like, who the hell is Kuwabara? So, but yeah, so it wasn't even a very good cosplay of him either. Like you probably wouldn't have recognized him as Kuwabara. But anyway, yeah, Yu Yu Hakusho has had some good moments, but mostly it hasn't been as good as it was in that first arc. The first arc was really funny and really entertaining and had some dramatic moments, even had some romance, had a lot of good stuff. After that, though, it's kind of just become yet another shonen anime, and I'm not a big shonen fan, so except for Bleach, but yeah. So Yu Yu Hakusho is the best of the shonen shows, but it's still only number 19.
What about? I thought you liked Hunter x Hunter. I thought that was.
Yeah, I do like Hunter x Hunter. Yeah, you're right about that.
Okay. All right. And well, you liked some parts of JoJo, at least.
I like some parts. I like some parts of Yu Yu Hakusho
Okay.
too.
No,
You
I
know,
meant
so
no. When I say parts, I meant literally, like, part one, part two, part three. I thought I remember you really liking part three, if I remember
yeah,
correctly.
part three. Yeah,
Yeah, but not so much a lot of the other parts.
part of the part maybe. Yeah.
Part of the part. Okay. All right. So what was that? The second part? I think that was the part you liked more. So part two of part three. This is sounding like the Attack on Titan seasons.
Oh, we aren't reviewing Attack on Titan, man. That's a shame because if we were, I could have put it in dead last.
Oh,
But
well, we did. Well, we only had one basically episode that was a special. I mean, I guess you could make a case for it considering we did include Kaguya-sama, the first kiss that never ends, because that was just a special that was split up into several episodes. But yeah, um so that could have been something. Yeah. Yeah, the only one that aired this year was the final episode, the final part, the final season, part three, part B, episode three. I don't know how it all works out.
yeah, that would have taken the cake as the worst thing of the year had
Oh,
it been eligible.
you
But
would have put the last episode of Attack on Titan below even Zom 100.
yeah.
Oh wow! I thought you would have at least put it a bit higher because of what you considered some of the unintentional humor.
Yeah, maybe.
Uh, All right. So. All right. So you gave 19. I'll go to 18. Okay, 18. For me, that's Burn the Witch, which was well, I described it. I'll hold the description I said last week. It feels like a pilot for a series that wasn't picked up for a full series. It sets up some interesting things, introduces some characters, gives some like potential hints as to where the story could go, and then we never get any more of it. That, at least for now. Now, maybe one day we'll get more of it and it'll continue. Again, like the what came after this is just a prequel to this that was actually released in manga form before what we saw. We saw like the 3 episodes of the like OVA, or which was technically one thing split into 3. So yeah, when I'm thinking we did Burn the Witch and Kaguya-sama. Maybe we should have had Attack on Titan, but I don't know where I would put it offhand. Huh. Let me think. If I want to retroactively try to put it, because you said where you'd put it, I'd probably put it the end of Attack on Titan. Ooh. Well, that's tricky. I feel like I have a bunch of conflicting opinions on it. Some parts I really didn't like, but some parts I at least had some kind of respect for. So, well, returning to Burn the Witch, it was, it may if it comes back for more of a series, it could be higher. But once again, this is what we've got, unfortunately, and that's kind of all of it. And in this context of this being all of it, this without like, and I can't even say, oh, just look at the source material, there's more, because there isn't more source material. This is all we've got. So that unfortunately kind of knocked it down a bit and ended up here.
Okay, number 18, right?
Yes.
Okay, number 18 for me is Sailor Moon. I just wish they had just skipped season 1, skipped season 2R, and started with season 3S, because season 3S is actually a really good season. I'm not sure about the ones that follow it, but S is definitely the best part of Sailor Moon, mainly because it introduces my favorite character, Sailor Uranus, and Sailor Neptune, the cousins. And but this first season just took forever for anything to happen. And it just dragged on and on and on. And, I can kind of see why they gave up on Toonami Rewind with it, because it was Monster of the Week pretty much 3/4 of the show. Very rarely you would get a new person introduced, and then they'd have at least some advancement of the plot. Then all of a sudden at the end, they're like, oh, okay, we're going to actually have plot now. We're going to have serious stuff. And that stuff kind of, it was too late by that point. So, yeah, this is in my tier of shows with mixed opinions. I had mixed opinions on it because I've always loved all the characters in Sailor Moon, well, except for Chibi Moon. Never liked her. But I've always liked most of the characters in Sailor Moon. I'm like I like Sailor Moon, but just this first season, just not that good. So yeah, 18th place Sailor Moon.
Yeah, after having you say all that is making me think, oh well, now maybe it's too much of a shame they didn't keep going and get to the better stuff. Okay. All right, so for me, next up we've got 17. This is Naruto. So they skipped over the Land of Waves arc. Well, most of it. They started it and then they just skipped past it to the start of the Chunin exams. And it's been so long since I saw it, I can't remember, but I've seen so many people say, oh, that was like the best part of Naruto. So maybe if we had seen that, this would be a bit higher. But ultimately, I just, I was a little surprised when rewatching this, especially during the Chunin exam arc, most specifically when they're in the Forest of Death, just how much of it I was not that interested in compared to the first time around, with it feeling like stuff was just going kind of slowly, like nowhere near as bad as One Piece. I need like that's in a different league, but like as I remember, from what I could tell, Naruto was usually doing like 2 episodes, 2 chapters per episode, which is nowadays kind of on the lower side. So I kind of feel like maybe that was part of the problem. Maybe if they had picked up the pacing a little to like what more series are doing, like Bleach 1,000 Year Blood War arc. That's like that thing, which everyone has been saying is like really great. That's just been putting so many chapters into each episode and going at a fast pace, which is I think why a lot of people are liking it. And Naruto's kind of the opposite side. Again, it's not anywhere near at the level of One Piece. 2 chapters per episode isn't like super low, but it definitely does feel like if they had gone through things a little faster, things could have worked out better. This was of course back in the day where so many series they had to have a new episode every single week. It's a thing with One Piece, it's Sailor Moon, Bleach, which required like them to pad things out and go a little slower. I'm kind of glad we're past that now, mostly where we've got seasonal anime, so they don't have to do that. But yeah, it still had some decent stuff, and I was just kind of a little surprised how unenthusiastic I was about the Forest of Death this second time around. And that was like a whole lot of this of what we watched this year of Naruto.
Yeah. Okay, number 17 is Burn the Witch. Half the reason for it is simply that it was too short. There's just not enough info for me to really make a good decision on it. So I guess it suffers because of that. Um, in fact, it's part of a group of three that suffer from that same problem in my rankings. Uh, yeah, I like the characters. I thought those were some pretty good characters, but I thought it was a little confusing. So, yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm trying to think of good things to say about it or bad things to say about it, but I can't really. It's just kind of there. So, 17th, mixed opinions on it, and yeah, that's it.
Okay. Next for me, number 16. That's Spice and Wolf Merchant Meets a Wise Wolf. It had a pretty strong start from what I remember, but some of the later arcs I thought were much less interesting, especially the one where Holo and Lawrence were separated. That was easily like the worst part of the series, and it definitely brought some stuff down. So yeah, it had some good stuff. It had some not very good stuff. And so it kind of ends up being around in this spot. I do have hopes for the second, some hopes for the second season. I did see someone say that that's where they think that the series starts really getting good. So, they've got some good stuff here. So if they can just fix it up, then we'll have a pretty strong second season. But for the first season, we end up with what's the right way to say it? A decent first season, but not if they had just heck, if we had just cut out that one arc, this would have shot up a bit.
Okay, that's all.
That's all.
Okay, number 16, Uzumaki. Pretty obvious because of the fact that it just didn't have enough material to really make a good decision on it. Honestly, this had the potential to maybe be a paranoia agent, but it just fell short of those expectations. It wasn't nearly as good as Paranoia Agent was. Which is one of those shows that I hated at first, and then once it was over, I'm like, man, that was so good. But Uzumaki, I think the final episode was pretty good, and yeah, it was confusing. Obviously, I mean that was the goal, really, but Uzumaki. I just don't have enough to make a really good decision on it. So that's why I'm putting it here more towards the middle. So, yep, Uzumaki number 16.
All right, me, 15. So there's a number of these series, either when we watched it in this was like a rewatch or I rewatched it on my own. So, for example, series that I rewatched at some point, like I can't list all. I don't want to go through all of them, but like the Yu Yu Hakusho, I watched back in the day. So this was rewatching Dragon Ball Z Kai. Also, Shangri-La Frontier, I did kind of rewatch on my own later on. And is there anything else that we've seen before that? Yeah, I think that's all of them, other than the one I'm about to list, which is Licorice Recoil. For some, Naruto was rewatched. Some of them ended up making me dislike them more. Some of them made me like them more, and some made me just kind of, I had about the same opinion. This is one that brought it down a bit. I really liked it when we initially watched it, but then on the rewatch, I kind of found myself less interested in it. I think the big problem I have with the show on a rewatch is you realize there's some stuff it seems like it's setting up, and then it just doesn't really do much with. Like we've got like, oh man, it's been a while, so I can't remember good examples offhand, but I remember thinking that when I watch it. Like, okay, we set up this like group that's sort of like what they describe as a boys version of Licorice. Okay, so what about them? We don't get anything about them really, other than the fact that at some point they were going to kill all of the Licorice girls, but because our heroes managed to stop the bad guy, that didn't need to happen. It's kind of weird, the fact that the series premise is about, okay, so there's these girls and they go around, just basically without any like extra, what's the word, extrajuridically, okay, I need to look this up. Sorry, let me see if I can extrajudicially, that's it, extrajudicially killing people to prevent going and killing people to keep the crime down. And then that's just, and it even plays it at the start of the series like, oh, this seems kind of morally dubious, and that part is just kind of not really. I mean, like, we do have the bad guy who's against it, but he's the bad guy because yeah, we got to stop this because I want there to be chaos and stuff. And so that's just kind of weird. That's something it doesn't really do much with. I still liked it, but I definitely liked it less the second time around. So, but yeah, kind of like the characters. There's some good stuff here. But it is a rewatch that kind of brought the series down for me. I did not like it as much the second time around. And you can go.
Oh, okay. Number 15, Kaguya-sama, Love is War, what is it? The first kiss.
The first kiss that never ends.
And, yeah, disappointing. I feel like it didn't have much of the stuff that I really enjoyed in the original Kaguya-sama. It was a little too romantic, to say. And, I don't have anything against romance, but Kaguya-sama had always been about love is war, and they kind of tipped their hand with the opening theme song being Love is So. And I think that kind of describes it right, because it was more all just a show here, and it wasn't really much of a war anymore. And that was the fun of Kaguya-sama, was seeing who was going to win the war, who was going to one up the other one. And then, of course, the narrator would always say, the person won who I thought lost. But, I missed that competition factor that the previous seasons had. And plus, like Uzumaki and Burnowitz, there wasn't enough material to go off. So ultimately, Kaguya-sama gets number 15 to close out my bottom half of shows.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't even realize it, but we did just go through half of it. Okay, top half for me then. Number 14. This one is Full Metal Panic: The Second Raid. I think this was definitely on the whole a considerable improvement over the first season. I liked it more, but there were some things that just bugged me. Like I look, maybe people will just say, "Oh, you're just a prude," but just having that weirdly explicit scene in that one episode, which just jumped the whole season's like rating on Crunchyroll up to 18 plus. And that would, and you guys should say, oh, it's not just even like the nudity. It's just like, why did we decide to make the two like twin sisters who were evil, like in some sort of apparently sexual relationship with each other? Did we need twincest here? Yeah, and the characters didn't really even do that much on the whole, so I don't think they were really that necessary. So that kind of bugged me. Even setting that aside, I think there some parts of it were kind of a little more boring, but there was a lot of stuff that was more interesting. I liked the stuff like the main villain who you've mentioned before. He was just so weirdly humorous. Like you mentioned, his literal last words were, "I need a haircut."
I could use a haircut.
Oh,
Yep.
okay, that was it. I misremembered. And there's some and like other things. I'm just kind of having trouble thinking of the right stuff to say because this had been so long ago and I've forgotten a bunch of things. But it felt like they got, compared to the first season, they got things better. Ian, they like they like got the plot and stuff working better with it. It didn't feel as much like the first season where it just would be, okay, we got a serious plot. Okay, now we're just wacky nonsense. And now back to the serious plot. It felt like it found itself a bit more. And yeah, so yeah, that's where this one ended up. Go on. You can go. I should probably just tell you when I'm done talking because otherwise we just keep ending with this blank where you're probably wondering if I'm done or not.
Yeah. Okay, number 14 is Dark Gathering. So, being one of the shows I had mixed opinions on, I like the show a lot at the beginning. I like a lot about Yayoi and her the way she speaks. I think that is pretty humorous. But after a while, the show turned into a monster of the week type of thing, and it got a little monotonous. And yeah, unfortunately, it had those problems with it. And if it didn't have those problems with it, I might have liked it more, but it definitely went downhill in the second half of the season. So, unfortunately, I can't put it higher, but yeah, it was, not bad. Just missed out on ever becoming really good.
Okay. Yeah, I kind of have some similar thoughts on it, but we'll discuss that when we get there. For next up for me, it's 13. We've got Demon Slayer Entertainment District Arc. This is why I wanted that separate from Swordsmith Village Arc, because this was a whole lot better than that. It had a lot of good stuff here. Again, jokes. I that's the thing with so many series. A lot of series, when they kind of do serious stuff, it doesn't work so well. But when they work on the jokes, it works fine. There's some funny jokes here, and in terms of like even the plot, it's more. I feel like I just want to compare it to Swordsmith Village because this just does everything so much better. We've got all the main characters involved in here. That's good. We've got the villains are more interesting this time around than like the other than the ones from Swordsmith Village arc. Everything just feels like it works so much better in this arc. And yeah, which is why I was maybe why I dislike Swordsmith Village arc so much, because we go from this to that. And yep, that's all I have to. That's Demon Slayer number 13. All right, what about you?
Okay, number 13 is Kaiju number 8. If I wanted to be funny, I could have put this at number 8 on my ranking, but Kaiju number 8 is number 13. A lot of things in this show I felt didn't make much sense, but it did have some pretty good action, some pretty good characters. and some pretty good music and a pretty good concept. So if when Kaiju comes back, it's able to uh, get over some of the dumber things, the dumber plot lines, maybe then I will be able to put it higher. As it is, it's pretty good, but there are just some things about it that just didn't make sense, and I had to mark it down. So, but you know, it's got potential in its second season. I'm looking forward to seeing it and finding out if it improves at all.
Okay. So, number 12 for me. This is a frustrating one because when this series is good, then it's like, worthy of the top 3 for this year. But it's pretty hit or miss with some episodes I was kind of bored by and didn't really like that much. And so Full Metal Panic Fumofu settles in at number 12. Like I said, if I were to like maybe just cut out the episodes I didn't care for that much, this would have been way higher. But I just got to take control of everything, and in the end, we end up here. There's some pretty funny episodes. Here, there's some episodes that I didn't really think that were funny, and you might say, well, Michael, it seems an awfully big coincidence that the episodes that you didn't find were very funny were all the really heavy fan service episodes, and you don't like fan service much. And that's true, but legitimately, even beyond that, I just felt that those episodes weren't as funny, maybe because they just thought, well, let's throw in some fan service in these episodes, and we don't need to write the jokes. But again, like, that's why I feel so bad about putting it this low, because it was so funny sometimes and then other times not so funny. So that's why it ended up here. You can go.
Okay, number 12. We have reached ReZero. So ReZero. Well, I like Priscilla. I'm a fan of what she's brought to the table, and I like most of the characters except for Amelia. So there's a lot to like, but it seemed like half this season was spent on just preparing for things and all this setup stuff. And I know that's only half a season, but that's all I've got to go on. So that's why I have to put it like that.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe the second half is going to be so good that it'll make up for that. But I'm still bitter. I admit it. I'm very bitter about what they did to Crusade. I'm bitter about what they did to Rem. I'm probably never going to get over those things. And if I had ReZero light novels, I'd probably be burning them, like the Oshinoko stuff. But ReZero definitely has potential to maybe turn things around and get a higher ranking next year, or maybe it'll focus too much on Amelia and I'll end up hating it like I did with season 2. Not really sure yet, but that's why I've got mixed opinions on that. For now, it falls in 12th place.
So, for 11, to me, that's Dark Gathering for pretty similar reasons for what you gave. I mean, I gave it a pretty close one. You gave it 14, I gave it 11. So, I was really interested in the show at the start. We had, it was kind of like spooky, but we had some good comedy stuff in here. But then it just kind of turned I wouldn't even say the problem is necessarily it being Monster of the Week. It's more like the series just felt like it kind of became Pokemon. Like, oh, hey, we got to fight this new Pokemon with our Pokemon to capture it so that we can use this Pokemon to fight new Pokemon, which is what they were doing. They were trying to capture the ghosts so that they could make them fight the other ghosts, and they were using their own ghosts that they had already captured to do it. It's just Pokemon. And that really felt like it kind of was on the weaker side of the series. I usually found it when they weren't doing that, the series was working better. But yeah, that's where it is. Still, we'll see if it ever gets a second season, considering it's go read the manga ending, which is available in English, so you can follow it. I've been thinking about whether I want to. I might wait until there's a little more out before I do it. Plus, you might get the second season, so we'll see how that goes. But yeah, it was, some parts of the series were pretty solid, but it was brought down by some other things.
Okay. Number 11, Shangri-La Frontier. Well, it wasn't Shangri-La, so it's not anywhere close to what Shangri-La was. But overall, I thought it was pretty good. I think it took too long for it to catch on with me, and once I started to enjoy it, I started to really like it. But yeah, it took a while, and that's the mixed opinions I have about it. Is that it took a. I guess I'm repeating myself. It's just, but yeah, I don't know. I think some of the things were a little weird, like why Pencilgon was obsessed with a fictional character, and the death of a fictional character. That was just really weird. But then again, a lot of people do get upset over deaths of fictional characters. Anyway, yeah, Singular Frontier, the last one of my mixed opinions shows. I look forward to seeing this next season and hope that it's going to be really good. We'll see what happens.
Okay. Number 10 for me. Dragon Ball Z Kai. I just thought it was pretty solid. It was never like this series was never like, great to me, but it was always just kind of good. It's kind of interesting because so many of these series like below it were kind of series that had better highs than this series, but they all had, of course, much lower lows. Dragon Ball Z Kai was just pretty consistent. I feel like it's kind of like I'm reminded of how One Piece has just kind of felt about kind of the same thing the whole time. It's just, except whereas One Piece was just always kind of the same because it had all this padding. Dragon Ball Z Kai was the version that got rid of, it's like the version of One Piece that got rid of all the padding. Because that is what Dragon Ball Z Kai did. It got rid of the padding in the original Dragon Ball Z. So, yeah, I ended up being pretty into all of this. This was like a rewatch, but I don't think it really changed my opinion of it. Although I can't remember how much I watched of Dragon Ball Z Kai originally. I know I had gotten, or if it might have been a little like erratic when I watched it, but I at least thought it was pretty solid. Might have liked it a little more, but like I said, I'm having trouble remembering how much I actually watched of the earlier stuff, because we went up right through the start of the Frieza fight this year, and I know I started watching at that point later on, then watch the whole thing. So I don't know. Maybe it's not as much of a rewatch as I thought it was. But the bottom line is, on the whole, I thought it was pretty good, just never great.
Okay, we're up to shows I like. Number 10, One Piece live action. There's a lot of good things about this. It was actually very solid, and comparing it to the live action Cowboy Bebop, that really helps because and it helps me out there because I saw how dreadful that Cowboy Bebop live action was, and that makes me like this a whole lot better. Now, granted, a little political, a little bit, just a little bit, but um, yeah, I I I like the special effects. I've never really seen these early One Piece episodes, so uh, I can't really make much of a comment on whether they were better in the anime or better in the live action. But overall, I enjoyed it. Um, Zoro still seems out of character to me. Usopp seems kind of out of character to me. Nami even is a little out of character. So, um, yeah, I think it has problems, but I enjoyed it. So I think it was worthwhile, and I, I'm guessing there's going to be more. They'd have to be more after being that successful. So we'll find out about that.
Oh, there's definitely going to be more. They like renewed it. They announced it. I think they've started, or maybe they even already have finished filming it. I know that they've at least started at working on it. So we are going to get a second season of this, unless something major happens. Like, I don't know, there's some major scandal or something. Actually, even then we might get it because the first one was popular enough. But so yeah, we're getting more. And
Okay.
I'm going to say it wasn't my final prediction. I almost put this as my prediction for your number one pick. So I'm glad I picked a different series to do that. I haven't been thwarted yet. I might still be correct because you haven't named the series that was my pick yet. Okay. So let's see. You just gave 10. All right. Up to 9 for me. Kaguya-sama, Love is War, The First Kiss That Never Ends. This was a really tricky one for me to rank because I had to really, because not only was it kind of short, I had to really try to separate my thoughts on this away from the rest of the series, which is harder because it's so short and everything else, just like overwhelms it, and I got to try to figure it out. But I think just going by these episodes, this is the right place to put it. It had a lot of the stuff I liked about the series, but I feel it did kind of just rush into the, characters getting together. Some things there, some of the stuff was like spread out a little more in the source material, which I think made it work better. And yeah, even if it was a minor thing, it bugs me that in the manga we got the simultaneous confession, which was the point that after all this stuff, and by the way, I'm probably dropping some major spoilers now that I think about it, but that was, it seemed to me the point was after all this, no one actually wins. But here it's like, okay, one character gives it first, and then the other reciprocates. So that was something that bugged me a little, but yeah, it still had a lot of the good stuff from the series. I just kind of feel that for you might say the pivotal moment of the entire series, I just wish it had done it a little better. I think the adaptation kind of like hurt some parts of it, but it was still pretty solid, so it's this high. Okay, that's it.
All right. we are on to number 9. And number 9 is Licorice Recoil. I don't remember what I ranked this the first time around, but I'd say it was probably a pretty high rating. I like this show. I like Chisato a lot. I like Majima the villain a lot. I think it's got a lot of good things about it. The one problem I have with it is the thing that Chisato can dodge bullets, which just seems like such an overpowered skill to have, because all they do is fight with guns. So if you can avoid every single gunshot, then you're kind of invincible. So, but aside from that, it's a great show. It's very entertaining, and I still want to go in the supercar.
Yeah, okay. I found it. You put it back in 2022. You put Licorice Recoil in 6th place out of 19, if it matters, which was also the exact spot where I put it. In that year. So, yeah. So let's see. Yeah. So yours dropped down a little, but of course we have more series for this, so that makes some sense.
Well, let me calculate what the. Okay, so about that much. How many were there? 19?
I think there were 19, yes.
Okay, 315, 315, 315, 315, 315, 321. So, pretty much exactly the same spot if you really think about it.
Okay.
If you calculate it based on how many shows there are, it's kind of pretty much the same thing. So,
okay. All right. So, let's see. Okay, so it's my turn then for number 8. Number 8, I've got Oshinoko season 2. Yeah, it was pretty good. Some parts of it were a little slow, but on the whole, I think to it and was like, yeah, that was good. Just I feel like I don't necessarily have that much to say about it. I mean, I could say about how everyone talks about how the series, got really bad towards the end, and I even saw some people say, yeah, like this plot where we're at was basically, it went downhill right after that, but which fills me with some fears for season 3. But we're not talking about season 3. We're talking about season 2. Which was an interesting experience because I didn't watch season 1. I read the chapters of the manga that corresponded to that, but that was so long ago I forgot most of it. But yeah, it was a pretty good series. I just kind of wished I had more to say about it. Then yeah, it was good. It was number 8. Don't worry, I'm sure you'll have a lot more to say about it than me.
We'll see about that. Number 8 is Spice and Wolf. Merchant Meets the Wise Wolf. Another show I liked. Near the end, that whole church plot I thought was not very good. But aside from that, it was great seeing the relationship between Lawrence and Polo, and the romance come together, and they're a really cute couple, and there's a lot to like about it. If it only could cut down on the economic talk, like if it just had a little bit less economic talk, then I think it could be really good, but um, yeah, it's still, I still liked it. Still a top 10 show for the year, and I hope whatever comes after that is just as good.
Uh, you just made me realize, how could I have talked about the series and I didn't mention the problem with all the economic talk? How did I forget to mention that? Yeah, I should have mentioned that, but the characters were nice. So here I'm trying to awkwardly add the positives and negatives I didn't mention the first time around. Okay. So, yeah. All right, so we move up to number 7 for me, which is Konosuba. I mean, it's Konosuba. It had, as usual, it had the stuff that I didn't really like, which is some of the more like, I guess, crude humor and stuff. But it also had the stuff that I did like, which was, the non-crude humor that was funny, and the characters and their interactions and all that stuff. It was a good yeah, it was pretty fun. I do like the fact that I think there were like 2 times where the joke of something going on so long was that you would probably like think, wait, where you would look at it and have to double check and make sure, wait, this isn't like, broken or anything, is it?
Mm-hmm.
Like the video, like when Kazuma's with what's her name? Eris, I think that was her name. And they're just sitting there, and like just neither of them are moving. But there were a lot of good jokes and stuff in this. So yeah, it was it was kind of fun. Yeah, maybe I should have swapped it in Oshinoko, but this is the list that we're gonna get. So yeah, I mean it's just Konosuba. It's got the same strengths and weaknesses it always has, and as usual, the strengths do manage to overpower the weaknesses. Okay, go on.
Okay. So number 7. Wow, that is surprising. I actually have Konosuba higher than you do. 7 is Full Metal Panic: Invisible Victory. A lot of stuff to like about this. Just the very fact that we have more Full Metal Panic is a good thing. I reduced this though because it had a very depressing plot, and it seemed like it was a Disney Star Wars movie because of how depressing it was. And I hated most of how it ended, although I did like the thing Toonami said at the very, 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 very end. So if there's ever a 5th season, please let there be a 5th season, because I want to see everything get right. But it's hard to say much bad about a Full Metal Panic series. I just love the franchise so much, and this was the worst of the 3 that we're reviewing, in my opinion. So, yep, Full Metal Panic: Invisible Victory, number 7.
Okay, so for me, after that we got number 6. That one for me was Yu Yu Hakusho. It did have some parts that were a bit weaker. I especially did not like the final stretch of the one where they're all like fighting each other in order to become Genkai's student. That was like not very good and made me starting to think, oh dang, do I want to stop? But yeah, I think it recovered after that for the most part. This was a series. I think my thoughts on rewatching it is pretty similar to it. The parts I liked, and the parts I didn't like. But I mostly liked this stuff. There's some good comedy stuff. This is another series that I wish maybe would sometimes include a little more comedy, but the stuff they've got is usually pretty good. And Yeah, I just kind of feel like it was a kind of solid show for the most part. Some parts were misses, but mostly hits.
Mhm.
And yep,
That's it.
that's it. That's all I got. Sorry, I feel for some series I want to say more, but I'm like, what do I say? Well, that's all I got. Sorry.
Okay, then. That leaves us at number 6, where Konosuba makes its appearance. The final show in the shows I like tier. The only bad thing about this was that little girl. If it wasn't for her, this would be even higher. Uh, oh, and trying to get rid of darkness, I didn't like that either. Losing darkness for too long, that yeah, maybe I should have put this lower after I now I remember that they got rid of darkness for a while. Darkness is best girl. I don't care what anyone says. Darkness is best girl, and Megumin is overrated, but not as overrated as I once thought she was. So, yeah, Konosuba is always going to be good. So, uh, I hope there's more. Um, I'm sure there will be. And yeah, I really don't know what else to say about it. I think that kind of sums it up.
Okay, let me see. Yeah, I don't think we have any announcement of a 4th season yet, but it'll probably come. Okay, so we got that. Next, number 5 for me is Kaiju number 8. Also, maybe I should have dropped it down a few things just for the memes to put it at number 8. But yeah, it ended up being here. I thought it was a pretty solid series. I liked it. I liked the characters. I kind of got interested in the world. It's I feel in a lot of ways this is just kind of a much more optimistic Attack on Titan. I like Kafka a lot more than Eren, admittedly. Although who knows? Maybe one day he'll try to kill everyone, and then when asked about it, he'll about why he did it, he'll just say, "I guess I'm just an idiot." But for now, I thought it was a pretty solid series. It was enjoyable. Again, some good jokes, like the characters, even if for some reason I can't actually remember anyone's name other than Kafka offhand. I should know it. I've known all of these. Kikoru. That was the girl. Now I remember her. It's funny. You always had trouble remembering Kafka's name and would just call him Sir. And Kafka's the character whose name I remember the best.
Sir.
Yeah.
Sir alert.
Yeah. So yeah, I liked it. I just kind of thought it was a solid series, and we got another season, so hopefully that'll be good. Unfortunately, I can't remember that much of the stuff in the manga immediately after that, so I don't know about that, but I enjoyed it for the most part. There were a few bits that, I kind of thought dragged a little, but on the whole, I thought it was a pretty solid show. Okay, go.
Oh, what are we on? 5?
We're on 5, yes.
Okay, number 5. Demon Slayer Entertainment District arc. So, if you're surprised, so am I. Because I never, ever, ever thought I was going to like Demon Slayer. And then this arc came around and changed everything. And everything about this arc was great. I mean, it had humor, it had action, it had fighting, it had dramatic moments, it had everything. And it made me really like Demon Slayer, and that's partially why I really disliked what they did the next season. Yeah, Demon Slayer really slayed it. in this entertainment arc. If they can get back to that, which I hope they can, which I think they could, maybe. I think I really liked it, but man, that arc was really good, and it made me realize why people like the show so much. And I just wish there was more of that and less of the swordsmith type of stuff. So Demon Slayer makes it into the shows I love at number 5.
Okay. Number 4 for me is, I find it interesting that the one that the Full Metal Panic you gave the lowest is the one that I gave the highest, because that's Full Metal Panic Invisible Victory at number 4. Oh yeah, it's it even fits because the Invisible Victory IV, it stands for 4. So I didn't notice that until just now. I did not choose that for the memes, honest.
You didn't know that? You didn't know that from the beginning?
No, I knew that the IV meant 4. It just I knew that like from the beginning of the series. It just for some reason my brain never made the connection. It's the between that and the fact I put it in 4th place. That's what I mean. So maybe it seems a little Anyway, yeah, I thought this was the most solid season of Full Metal Panic. It got me more interested in the show than any other season. I think a big part of that might have been pacing, because like I mentioned, the first season, like it looked like they were doing about 8 episodes per light novel. The second season was 6 per, and this was 4 episodes per light novel. And it also had the best pacing, I think, on the whole. It did have some problems, Kaname kind of like just gets written out of it midway through, but I still thought it worked out fine there. It's left me very interested in how it continues, and I think at some point I probably will if we don't get another season of the anime, which unfortunately, given the gap, we probably won't. But I'm thinking, yeah, I'll probably want to pick up the source material, the light novels, to check them out and see how it all concludes. And but yeah, I thought I just was very, very interested in this season. I thought it was very entertaining. It was kind of like what's the best way to say it? I was going to say that it was kind of like Fumofu if we took only the good stuff from it, but that's not a perfect comparison because this one was actually much more serious and that was more of a comedy, which is actually interesting because the first season I kept thinking that the more serious stuff was the less interesting stuff, and here we just went almost complete serious, and it was all really interesting. So yeah, I thought it was a very solid season of Full Metal Panic. It got me very much more interested in the series, and yeah, I have just no shortage of positive things to say about it, outside of the fact there is a kind of annoying cliffhanger at the end, but I don't want to hold that sort of thing against the series necessarily, because maybe we will end up getting that final season, and then that criticism will just be completely gone. And even in terms of cliffhangers, hey, like I said, the source material is out there. It's all translated into English also. So yeah, very good season, I think. Probably biggest issues with just kind of lack of Kaname in some parts of it, but I feel like the series had a pretty good direction here, and when I say direction, I mean like not well, actually it had it in both senses. I think it looked fine, but also direction in like where it was going, where in some of the previous ones it was a little more aimless kind of. So yeah, very, very good very, very good one. I'm glad we went I'm glad we watched all of it, because that got me to this. It's a series I think that got better as it went along, and well, yeah, I just have positive things to say about it really. So, interestingly enough, now that I think about some of the series above it, I think I'd have more criticisms to make of the series above it. It's just those series, I think their strengths are a little higher than this one. But still, even if it missed the bronze by a little bit, still a really good season. Okay, and that's all I have to say about it for now.
Okay. Okay. Okay, that brings us to number 4, right? Number 4.
Yes.
Full Metal Panic, the second raid. And what I found interesting about this was that I went into this thinking, okay, I'm going to dislike it because I disliked it the first time I watched it. And then whenever I watched it, I couldn't even figure out why I didn't like it. I couldn't figure it out. I was like, what is wrong with this? I don't see anything wrong about the second raid. I don't see any reason why I would have liked this less than the other ones. I mean, sure, it's a little more depressing of a plot, and I guess Full Metal Panic is likes the depressing plots at times, but yeah, I really enjoyed the second raid and the second time around, and I think Full Metal Panic has left a pretty good legacy. If all 4 of its seasons have been ones that I particularly liked. So hopefully we someday get that 5th and final season. But even if we don't, Full Metal Panic will always remain one of my favorite series.
Yeah, and they could conclude the story in one more season. There's 3 light novels left there that they can get that into one season. So yeah, maybe we'll get it. I haven't heard any rumblings on it, but again, don't give up hope. There was such a lengthy gap between Second Raid and Invisible Victory.
Yep.
Okay, number 3 for me. Now this, I mentioned before, rewatching some series, it caused my opinions to shift. This was one that it shifted up considerably. When I decided to rewatch Shangri-La Frontiers first season, I now, maybe it was the fact I binged through it faster. I was trying to, once again, I just watched it all dubbed in Spanish, trying to get better at that. I maybe that had an impact on it for all I know. But what I was struck by was that the first time we watched it, there were a bunch of points where I was kind of bored on parts. I was thinking, this episode, not so great. And this, when I rewatched it, I felt like almost all that had disappeared. All the things that I thought were boring the first time around, I was much more interested in, except for that part where they spent like half an episode on a character singing. That was still boring. But apart from that, it raised my opinion of it considerably. Which made it jump up to number 3. So that so yeah, really excited for the next season that we're gonna start. Although I've heard that some people say, yeah, the premiere's not that great, but hopefully it'll be better after that. And yeah, so I thought it's very interesting. This definitely would have been lower if not for that rewatch, but it really adjusted my opinions of it and made me like it more. The joke, there's a lot of good jokes. I like the characters. There's just a lot of things I like about it. And yeah, that's I guess the stuff that I have to say about it.
Okay. Okay, that leads us to number 3 on my list, and that will be Full Metal Panic Fumofu. So Full Metal Panic, Umofu, just really funny stuff, hilarious stuff, and every week it seemed to get funnier. It managed to take what's a very serious show and make it very funny, and yeah, I this is my favorite of all the Full Metal Panics. Umofu is my favorite, and not particularly close either. Even though Full Metal Second Raid was right below it, um, if I just ranked Full Metal Panic seasons, it would be in a tier above the other ones. But that's getting too complicated. Let's just focus in on the fact that Kumofu was really funny and even had some romance in it, and even had some exciting action, some really good jokes. Everything about it was good. And I gave this a 9 out of 10. So pretty rarefied air there, because I only really give 9 out of 10 to stuff that's really good. So, well, excuse me, that's obvious. I didn't mean I only give 9 out of 10 to people it's really good. What I meant by that was that to get a 10 is very, 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 very difficult with me. So if you get a 9, that's a pretty fantastic rating. So, yep, Full Metal Panic Fumofu is number 3, and my favorite Full Metal Panic.
And with that, I lose my prediction for your top pick. That was what I thought it was going to be. I was close, at least.
What was your backup pick?
Oh, I was thinking it might be Invisible Victory. I thought your order of that would be the same as me. Yeah. Okay. So we got that. Yeah. So, well, we're down to the top 2 now for me. It was and this was a difficult decision to me until I kind of thought about it in the right way, because both of these were series that I really liked, but at the same time I could say, yeah, there were some kind of problems with these. That's why it's a little, but like the good stuff was really good to me. So I was thinking, okay, what do I do? Which do I do? And then I realized the best way to do it in this is just to say, okay, considering the fact that these are kind of similar in that these, if people have been keeping a track of what it is, you'll know what these top 2 are. But before, in case you haven't been just before I actually list them, both of these are series that I'm familiar with the source material and I know what's going to happen next. And they're both series that are going to be having new episodes. Well, one of them is we know is having new episodes next year. The other one is presumably having new episodes next year. So that makes it nice, and I can just ask myself, well, okay, between these, if I could only watch one of these these continuations next year, what would it be? And it works great here because you don't run into the question of like, well, okay, but if I don't know what's going to happen, then I might want to watch that instead. Whereas in this case, it's kind of both for them. Okay, I'm babbling on a bit and people probably annoyed. But so once I just decided which is the one that I'm looking forward to, that I definitely would want to see more, and that does, and with that build up, I actually should list what's number 1, but I have to say the other show first. And number 2 is the One Piece live action series on Netflix. I thought this was really solid, really good, a lot of interesting stuff here. In terms of weaknesses, the obvious one to me is I just did not think the whole plot with Kobe and Garp, I didn't think was very good. I wasn't very interested in Kobe. Garp felt like a very different character than he was in the manga. I know everyone kind of was made more serious in this, which I think you kind of have to when you switch it to live action, but Garp really got hit with that. but that wasn't that bad. That even like the worst parts of it were just, meh. And the good parts were really great. So that ended up for number 2 for me. Whenever they do bring out that second season, I'm going to be interested in watching it at some point.
Okay. When it comes to number 1 and number 2, these two series benefit from nepotism because their first seasons I really, 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 really liked, and as a result, everything I see afterward gets viewed underneath that light. So they have an advantage that some other shows wouldn't have, because when I think about them, I'm thinking about the stuff I really enjoyed. Like, for example, with OC no Ko, the first season was one of my favorite anime I've ever seen. My teenage, my snafu, we'll just call it snafu. Yeah, it was. I love season 1 of that too. So which one is the top one? Well, we'll get to that, but yeah, OC no Ko had a lot to the plot involving the play and all that. But second place is going to be Snafu. So Snafu fills in spot number 2 due to the fact that I just love the characters so much, and I really enjoy the way they interact with each other. Yeah, there's a lot of word salad going on. The word salad thing is probably the worst part of this show, but other than that, I really enjoyed the characters, and I think that Hachiman and Yukino were made for each other because they're both miserable people. So I'm kind of glad Yui didn't get stuck with him. Yeah, she didn't deserve to have to be stuck with someone miserable like him for the rest of her life. So let Yukino have him because she's just as miserable. And that is part of what I like, is that the characters are miserable, yet they're likable at the same time. And Snafu got great ratings, and if you based it based on, if you base it on my top 3 of the year, Snafu comes out way out on top, with Yu Yu Hakusho somehow finding its way into the second position, which is a little weird. But yeah, Snafu is my number 2 pick for the year.
All right. Well, number 1 for me, there's only one series left, but for anyone who hasn't been keeping track and doesn't know, number 1 for me was ReZero. I really liked this season. I've honestly been, maybe some of it is just anticipation, because after season 2 ended, I went and read some of the source material, read the rest of the next arc. So I have been kind of spoiled on this arc, but I thought they did a pretty solid job on it, and it was very interesting to watch. The decision to just do one big episode at the beginning was a smart one, because so much of that is set up. And I kind of get what you're saying. Yeah, there is definitely a problem in this season of there being so much setup. There's a few other things I could point too. But on the whole, I was just really interested in this. I enjoyed it. I appreciate also the fact that compared to the previous seasons, it has felt less repetitive because there hasn't been as many deaths. When you stop and think about it, like Subaru like died in episode 1 and 2, and then he didn't die at all since then. So we'll see how long that keeps up. But it was nice to just have it keep going and not constantly just recycle things with returning by death. Good theme song. Also, and another thing I like is the fact that even though unfortunately we still don't have Rem back, she'll probably come back later, but for now not. I'm glad. The big problem I had with season 2 is it felt like such a detour. We had this stuff set up with the royal selection, and then we just went off and did whatever for a season. And now we're like, hey, all that stuff we set up, yeah, well, okay, those characters are back, and we're going to continue the stuff. So it felt much more like a better continuation. And yeah, I just really enjoyed it. I'm excited to see the second half of it, and hopefully it will manage to surpass this. And that is my number one spot for this year, ReZero Season 3.
Okay, number 1. Not much else to say. Oshinoko. And my entire explanation is this. Kana Arima is best girl, and Aquakana forever. Oshinoko, number 1.
Okay. All right. That's all of them then. You never so I guess we can talk about our predictions and stuff. You never mentioned what what did you think I was going to give number 1?
One Piece live action.
Yeah, that was you were close. You were closer than I was with yours. Yeah. Okay, let's see. So we got that. And now let's look at what we've got here. Biggest split that ended up being Snafu between the two of us. I was totally wrong on that. I was thinking it was going to be I think because of me underestimating where some things where I was thinking it was going to be Fumofu because I thought that was going to be your number 1 spot. So I was totally wrong on that one. For average lowest,
wait. What was the biggest split? Was Snafu. My prediction was Yu Yu Hakusho.
That was my second That was my second place prediction. Which I almost used, but it wasn't. That was the second biggest. Yeah. Okay. I correctly called the average lowest, which was well, actually, screw it. I should. You don't even know what the average is because I've been looking at them. I figured this out. So assuming there's nothing wrong with my calculations, which actually there might be. I almost goofed up majorly in adding up the stuff for Sailor Moon. Here's the order of them from top to bottom, highest to lowest. We've got number 1, Oshinoko. Then we've got Full Metal Panic Invisible Victory, One Piece live action. Shangri-La Frontier is tied with ReZero and Konosuba. Then there's Fumofu, the second raid. Kaiju number 8 and Demon Slayer Entertainment District are tied. Then we have Snafu. Spice and Wolf is tied with Licorice Recoil and Kaguya-sama. Dark Gathering is tied with Yu Yu Hakusho. Dragon Ball Z Kai. Uzumaki is then tied with Burn the Witch. Then Naruto, Sailor Moon, One Piece anime, Invincible, Fight Girl, My Adventure with Superman, Demon Slayer, Swordsmith Village, Ninja Kuri, Zom 100, Rick and Morty the anime. At least I correctly predicted what would be the overall bottom.
So did I.
Yeah.
My high, the one I thought would finish top was Fumofu. So I didn't realize if I just picked my own number one, that would have been correct. That's all I had to do. That's all I had to do.
The funny thing is that you thought that the overall would be Fumofu. That was my prediction for the no, that was my prediction for your top spot. My prediction for the overall highest was One Piece live action. So
we swapped those two picks.
yeah.
Because I have One Piece live action as your top, and I had the highest Fumofu.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that was interesting. So yeah, biggest yeah, that was interesting to see. There were some things you said that I was completely expecting, and some things that actually took me a bit by surprise. So
What would those be?
I by surprise. Let me actually double. Now I'm trying to remember some of the stuff. I was kind of a little surprised you put Snafu so high. I thought you were kind of more cool on the second and third seasons.
Yes, the nepotism.
Okay. Nepotism. Oshinoko being number one is the sort of thing I didn't see coming, and in retrospect, it was super obvious, and I don't know why he didn't at least consider that like a second guess. Those were some of the things. Trying to glance over. Yeah, that was probably the biggest kind of surprise. Some of those. Other than that, a lot of stuff was kind of where I thought it was. There were some series I thought you might have a bit higher or a bit lower, but that was on the whole all of them. Demon Slayer, actually, I was a little surprised by how high you put Entertainment District. That was one that definitely took me by surprise. So that's our end of year countdown. And oh yeah, let's see, how long did we have we been talking? Okay, you were officially right. We have been talking for more than 2 hours. So I don't know how to quantify all this stuff as to who predicted what best, but you definitely got that. Okay. Whew. All right, so we'll be here. So hopefully we won't have quite as much next year.
Yeah. No, it's not a bad thing.
Well, I don't have a problem with us having plenty of stuff like we watch, just fewer different shows, or even if not that, fewer shows where I had such different opinions on some of the seasons that I felt the need to split them up for this purpose, because there were like several ones we did that for, but I felt like we both were very far away with our Demon Slayer one, so that made some sense there. Yeah, okay, everyone. So now that we're done with all that, I guess I'll just mention. So for next week, what we're planning to do, it's a new year and we're mostly wiping the slate clean, honestly, in regards to a lot of things. So for next year, we're planning to, at least for now, continue with Yu Yu Hakusho, but we're going to be watching one episode per week instead of two. We will now be bringing in Shangri-La Frontier and Blue Lock, which have come back and with their new seasons, and we'll check them out. We'll I've kind of heard some not so great things about some of the Blue Lock stuff, but hopefully it'll still work out fine. And hey, like the first season, I want to see it, so we'll check that out. And we're also going to, which we did quite a while ago, we had the bright idea, let's watch through all of Star Trek The Next Generation, start to finish. The problem is that involves going through season 1, so we kind of quit after, I think, 9 episodes. So for next week, we aren't actually 100% sure if we'll be able to do it, but we're going to be starting with, but if things go to plan, we will start watching that next week alongside of all of our anime. We'll be starting with the episode, I think it's 10, it's the episode Hide and Q. So to try to just skip past all this stuff I was saying, my what we're planning to watch for next week, which we might change because we've changed them all the time after telling you what we're going to be watching. We'll have one episode of Yu Yu Hakusho, one episode of Blue Lock. We'll be having 2 episodes of Shangri-La Frontier. And then we'll have that episode of Star Trek The Next Generation. Let's see if we can at least get through the rest of the season this time. Okay, so any thing extra to talk about before we sign off?
Oh, Happy New Year, everybody. 2025, we have reached the quarter century mark since the turn of the century. And we're not worrying about Y2K this time around. So yeah.
Yes, unlike Y2K, there are some things that we might to worry about that might actually be real. Yeah, that was such a, oh man, that was such a, where did all that even come from? All the ideas of that, like, being some possible, like, major thing, because that was just talked about so much, and yet it was just based on, yeah, what's, if the worst thing is that some computers will think it's 1900, whoop-de-doo.
Well, from what I heard is that the reason why nothing happened is because the computer engineers really went to work in that year of 1999, and they worked out the bugs so that important things wouldn't fail. And I've seen people post saying, yeah, I'm rich now because I got paid so much to debug things in preparation for Y2K that I got paid so much for what I did. So I think that's interesting that Y2K may have actually been a problem if we hadn't taken proper precautions. So that's something people don't talk about much.
Maybe. On the other hand, I kind of wonder if a bunch of these people were just like trying to like scare about it so that they would then get paid to fix problems that wouldn't be the biggest thing. Because a bunch of countries that did like very little about it did just fine. So it's just interesting the way that was such a major thing. It's like, it reminds me of like, oh, what year was it? I know there was some year where everyone would just not shut up about El Nino. We heard about it all over and over again, and I'll always remember that because despite the fact that I had heard it over and over, despite the fact that on pretty much any other occasion I could have easily said what it was. When I was in the finals of my school's geography bee, that was the question that I missed out on, and why I did, and it caused me to get second place, because I could not for the life of me remember the name of El Nino. It's so weird. It reminded me of when I kind of talked around it, but I just completely forgot what the main character, what Tanjiro's name was in Demon Slayer. When I was talking about it, it's why you might have noticed I started just like saying, the main characters, because I was like, what was his name? It starts with T. What was it? So that's everything for this year. I don't know if these episodes will be up in time for the new year or before the new year, but in any event, definitely for next year, we'll be back with those things we watched. I can't remember exactly when Toonami is coming back with shows, but when it does, we'll come back with that. And I think that's it. As always, we're at the end, and I'm just kind of scrambling to say things and find a good way to close it off. And I guess that's all we've got. Anything witty to say to close this off on?
Yeah, I do have one thing to say.
All right.
Bye.
I trust you're ready to begin. Where'd he get that power all of a sudden?
I'm not into flashy displays. I'm more direct.
Well now, is that a challenge? You're a glutton for punishment. I tend to thrive when the stakes are high.
I keep coming.
And I'll keep punching!
Be gone, demons. In my fist is God. And in my soul, the devil!
You might want to take a step back.
You wouldn't dare shoot us!
Is this truly as calamitous as it sounds? Let's ratchet ourselves up to full power. I'm enjoying this chaos. This is unprecedented, ladies and gentlemen.
Please vacate the area. Detonation will occur in 5, 4, 3,